this. And thank you very much for showing up tonight. So this is the IXDF community DESIGN-o-RAMA's. It's still a jam. I'm going to continue to call it a jam. I don't know if any of you were at the original meetup. I was trying to just get an idea of what people needed, what the need was. But everyone provided some really great ideas, and I stubbornly stuck with jam, but titled this DESIGN-o-RAMA's because we never know. A hackathon makes people think that you're developing something, which you can certainly do, but it makes it seem like it's the primary task. So we're trying to move away from something and give it a space. And there's so many terms that people use to describe these things. And I'm still going to refer to it as a jam because DESIGN-o-RAMA just takes up so much space right now, but whatever we decide, it will be that. I put this little line art of a jam here. Anytime you see this in a slide, it's an opportunity for you to just provide input in Miro. You can also put other input in Miro. If you have thoughts, you can add it there, add it in the chat. I'll keep track of all of it and help shape this event, this series of events as they move forward. But you know, the main reason here was to talk about how people, how we can support people in doing creative work in a way that sort of supports their career growth, their ambitions, their need to build their portfolio, their need for any type of experience around this concept of hands-on, team-based work. This is one of the biggest requests I get outside of the basic, how do I get a job in UX or UXR, is how do I get more hands-on experience researching and designing? How do I get more experience working with cross-disciplinary teams on realistic problems with some amount of accountability? And you see the little jam there. If your needs aren't listed there, feel free to add them. If you're saying, well, how do I get more experience in being a Scrum Master, doing project management? Whatever it is, we can try to find ways to help you support that. In some ways, like agile work will come up in this at some point. You know, sometimes when I look at this, just from my experience and having gotten a master's in design, you just learn to do the thing. You just learn to say, well, I need to practice web design, so I'm going to go do web design. But that's not necessarily a universal, how can I say that? That's a muscle you have to develop, or at least a muscle that some people have to develop. I think some people are born that way. I don't know how that happens. And I'm just going to go over the community feedback we had from the first event we had a couple months ago. And, you know, what keeps people from attending sort of collaborative events, jams, hackathons, so on and so forth. They're busy at work. They're burnt out from work. No one is going that I know. They're busy with kids sometimes, finding more designers. But, you know, basic challenges we all have. And, you know, my hope is that some of the fluidity of what we're proposing right now and sort of the scope of it will help support some of this, that you can step in and out of it as you need. You can build a team, rely on a team, have some redundancy in how you move forward, or you can work independently and do the things that resonate with you. And over time, as we continue to do these challenges, hopefully the community will grow. We'll have more people in there giving feedback, providing support, answering questions, sharing with each other. And you know, the little jam bottle is there. What else keeps you from attending jams besides this? Again, any feedback you give will help me continue to frame the event. What do people like about past jams? So they appreciated different perspectives, collaborating, team building, finding solutions for complex problems, working on something different than the usual design, sort of the ability to branch out a little bit, getting to work on projects that are not always digital. Something really powerful in sort of the UX space that I think we often ignore is that, and in interaction design as well, is that it doesn't always have to be digital, you know? User experience can happen anywhere with anything and with anyone. Getting to work on the challenge, just the challenge itself, basic creativity, sort of having less constraints. That can be challenging sometimes. What I understand is that for an architect, one of the hardest things to design is your own house because there are very, very few constraints. So I wonder what a fully constraintless design problem looks like. And maybe that's why it's hard to pick up one on your own, but we'll try to add some of those constraints and frame that. Someone put to use sticky notes to play with ideas, and I hope I'm facilitating some of that tonight with the Miro board. Uh, and as you're looking at this, is there anything else that you appreciate about uh, past jams that you've attended? It'd be good to know. And then working together to solve real world problems. That's something that we haven't fully addressed here, but we can. People can certainly self-select into that by saying, oh, this design challenge, well, let's try to tackle this big problem. And I'll do my best to support that, but haven't necessarily built that in quite yet. And what are your goals for this? Again, there's another section in the Miro board if you want to answer this. And for these Miro board things, you can go in later and answer them as well. But people wanted to get better at presentations, so we try to support that as we can regularly. Add more examples to the portfolio, gain problem-solving skills, learn from others. Greater than me. I didn't like that phrasing, but I kept it in because I didn't want to distort their language. But I think they're just talking about people who maybe have more experience in things than they do. Getting feedback from professionals in the field. We have a number of people in our community now. I'm sure some of you are these as well, who are experienced professionals who can provide input from various different perspectives. And there's just a tremendous amount of diversity in our local leader team and membership who can provide really good feedback. Improving communication, how we talk about design, and learning new strategies from working with different kinds of people, which that's a major skill to build. Just looking back at my career now, I was just typing those up today. I didn't fully digest them, and that one hit me pretty hard. And this was just simply about format, and this was a tough one. This is why this whole DESIGN-o-RAMA is framed the way it is. There's some people wanted 1 weeks, some wanted a 4-week challenge during the holiday months. Some people wanted weekends. Someone was really ambitious and wanted an iterative design challenge that happened over a month or potentially the full year. And other people were looking for very small things to work on. There is some desire for in-person. It'd be good to hear, your perspective on that, if you prefer in-person or virtual, or a combination of both, or if you want synchronous, where everyone's working together at the same time, or if you prefer asynchronous, where you can sort of collaborate at different times and hand things off to each other. There's an opportunity to do both here, and you'll see that. The other thing is, what do we call, what are fun names for design jams? Jam. What would you call it other than a jam? But we had hackathon, designathon, DESIGN-o-RAMA, the idea factory, collaboration stations, spark sessions, research jamborees, jam, synergy sessions, and think tank blitz. And all those are really interesting because they really speak to the different perspectives of people who are hoping to approach this. And I think we can potentially tackle a lot of these different perspectives in what we do. And some of these are sort of inspiring with how we can sort of modify this over time. And feel free to add your names of what you would like it called in there. Who is doing all this? Technically, it's the IXDF US community leadership. We're all volunteers. For the time being, it's me. My name is Matt Burgess. I am the volunteer. I'm the IXDF country manager for the US. So I support all the local leaders in their efforts to just provide events and support the communities and the local communities. And we are very fortunate. In August, we had our first full-time employee start at IXDF who supports communities, and she's amazing. And she's really given me a little bit of extra space to tackle big things like this and help test things out for the IXDF community so that we can, pursue the mission, which focuses a lot on career growth and learning from experts in the field and getting hands-on experience and growing your skills. And from the community perspective, the other thing, I like to say is that we're forwarding the conversational design, that the people that are attracted to IXDF are just a different breed, and they have a lot of interesting perspectives if they're transitioning in from their original field, if they're already in design from a design perspective. And to have all those people in one room talking about things is oftentimes a very powerful experience. I can always use help. If you would like to volunteer, I created a spreadsheet. I have not shared it yet. I've shared it in the email earlier. I have a spreadsheet that is going to continue to grow over time. I'll drop it in the chat. I focused it around one of the primary tools we're going to use, which is Discord. And it's partly because Discord allows you to remain, to protect all your PII fairly well. So you're not handing out your email address to a bunch of strangers. So it's focused around the Discord name, but the rest of it's just your name and things like that. The very right-hand column says, I want to volunteer. You can sort of select what you'd like to participate in. And it could be helping me. So I have a full cadence of probably 270 different topics over 40 some odd weeks. But they're just ideas at this point. They're fairly, I'm going to say this, granular in how they're communicated, but they still need another pass. And periodically I'm going to go in and say, what do we have for the next 2 weeks? What does that look like? Does this make sense? Can someone approach this in a way as a team? Can they approach it as an individual? Just ask all those hard questions and then just tweak them a bit to make them work. You can also, if you want to volunteer, you can grab a sticky and throw it in the mirror board, but ideally throw it in the spreadsheet, which I did paste the chat. Who's allowed to participate? Much like all IXDF events, it's members, non-members, has to be free. So anybody and everybody, even that man dressed up, or woman or person dressed up like a panda in the middle of the crowd. This is really open to anyone. And this is well, partly because all IXDF events have to be that way, but also to support building teams. So if you want to integrate with a developer and a developer who wants to be a part of stuff like this, and they're not a member of IXDF and they're just not in the ecosystem of IXDF, grab them and bring them in. They don't have to be a member. You don't have to sign them up. You can interact with them externally. You can add them to the spreadsheet and allow other people to communicate with them. It's entirely up to you, but it's very fluid in how you approach. Is there anything else I had there? Oh, and just some ideas. It could be team members from work. It could be if you like to do stuff like this with your family. It could be them, your friends, people you meet through this process. You could grow a team by meeting people through these DESIGN-o-RAMAs. Again, people on the spreadsheet. And you can also find people in your local chapter by hosting an event. And that brings this up. As members of IXDF, you should all be members because of how I marketed this. You can schedule an event in your local chapter. I would encourage you to schedule a virtual event initially for this. Hey, we're trying to build a team for DESIGN-o-RAMAs, and we just want to have an info session on it. I am happy to support you in maybe trying to build marketing material for it and post it on the community site. If you struggle with that sort of thing, you can just reach out to me. But it may be a good way to connect with people who are a little bit closer to you. But you also have the spreadsheet and other vehicles to connect with others. And if you have any thoughts about any of this, you can share them, and I'll do my best to incorporate them. The only thing I would not suggest is to go to your local page and use the discussion. definitely host an event or work with your local leader and have them send an email. The discussions just don't get a lot of immediate traction. So it's just not maybe the best place to start, but if you leverage it as something moving forward, once everyone knows to go there, it can be a good resource. So we're going to start getting into the meat of how these will work. How are we going to do this? As I mentioned, teams will be self-organizing. If you need help organizing a team, I may be able to help you out. We're going to use Discord as a central platform, at least to get started. I will provide that link a little bit later. This Excel sheet I keep talking about, which is the team builder, posted in here and sent an email. I can send a follow-up email with all these links as well. Recently created a YouTube channel for IXDF, so I'll post this video that we're recording right now, post that there. And as I need to record videos to provide additional context for things, or as we have certain types of meetings moving forward, that's where we'll share it. Right now, it is the emptiest YouTube channel on YouTube, but hopefully that'll change shortly. And then any meeting announcements will be through Discord and I'll most likely schedule through Luma. I will potentially post them on IXDF channels or IXDF local groups as is valuable. But I'm going to try to grow this a little organically to reduce a little bit of the overhead for myself. The cadence. So the challenges themselves will come every week. There'll be 5 of them a week to give you 5 days on and 2 days off. I'm going to try to keep them thematically clustered. Sometimes it'll be, one group and then another group. But generally they'll be, as we go through the weeks, they'll be sort of thematically clustered. So there may be one on Agile. There may be one on service design. There may be one on accessibility. There may be one that focuses on user research and writing discussion guides, things like that. So they'll be a little broad. And if you are really focused on something like UI and you don't care about user research and you don't want to participate, that could just be a week off for you. Or you can reach out to me and say, hey, listen, this is just not me. Can you create a set for me? And I can probably find something for you. Not a big deal. But in the spirit of forming ourselves as very empathetic and robust designers, it may be fun to try these things out. And I'll try to connect everything to educational material as I present it. So one of the examples I'll show has the word cognitive walkthrough, and that's a very, very specific thing. And I'll provide a little link to something that talks about cognitive walkthroughs and how to conduct them. But the way it's structured, it'd be 5 things in a week. If you want to do them all on the weekend with a team, you can. If you want to do one a day, you can. If you want to do Monday, Wednesday, Friday, just stack some of them together. How you manage your work is completely up to you. The only thing I would suggest is posting your designs as you finish them and then trying to get them posted in the weekend so people can, in their free time, could potentially do that and then the following week provide feedback. I'm going to try to put in, I'm going to put in regular show and tell days where we can all jump in a call like this and say, hey, here's what I worked on, and have more of an interactive conversation. And then I spelled that correctly, periodic case study days. So this opportunity to start thinking about how we communicate our designs and an opportunity to pitch them a little more formally. So I tried to make these progressive, and I'll show you a big list of weekly topics in a bit. But it should never be so much that it's not a good starting point for someone. So if you look at this and you say, this is great, but I can't start until March or April, it's fine. You'll get to the one in April. You can start there and try to help you acclimate, but it shouldn't be that challenging. You'll have the educational material there. And it's really, about going through the motions and trying things out. It's going to be a mix of UI, UX, UXR. There's going to be some product stuff in there as well, like writing user stories. But it's meant for everyone. So it could be really good for a team if people want to take on independent sort of tasks or they want to grow skills. And in fact, in the spreadsheet, there are columns that talk about skills that you want to use, not necessarily skills that you have, but skills that you have and you want to use, and also skills that you want to grow, so that as you're trying to meet people and form teams, you can sort of have that information in front of you. And here's a quick example. This is not as refined as I would want it to be, but this is an example of 5 challenges. And these are things that you could potentially do in about an hour, except that first one. What I would do with that is say, if you're working with a team, conduct a usability heuristic evaluation on a single website page of your choice. But what I would say is maybe find 3 heuristics instead of doing the full set. Like pick out the ones that are sort of the most egregious or the most extreme. And then Tuesday, create a low fidelity wireframe that reflects what you found in your heuristic evaluation. And then on Wednesday, create a visual design to finish the visual design for it. Thursday, separate task, form a cognitive walkthrough for an e-commerce checkout flow. So something everyone should have access to in some shopping experience these days. Go through it, do a cognitive walkthrough, and then maybe write 3 user stories that reflect changes that you would make to that. So these are all a little different in size. I think the biggest one is that first one, but you could scope it down a bit. The visual design one could be a little big too. But you can see how these are starting to come together and sort of cross-disciplinary, but you could do them on your own. And what will this look like each week? I will deliver the full list. So this thing, it'll come to you on Sunday. I shouldn't say that. It'll come to Discord on Sunday. It'll come to the channel. And I'll post the individual items each day. So this whole list on Sunday, just so you can look at it. If you're working with a team and you want to sort of formulate how you're going to work together, you'll have all the tasks. But then on Monday, I'll send that first one. Tuesday, I'll post the second one. On Wednesday, I'll post the third one, so on and so forth, just in case someone is doing it day by day. And there will be supporting content. I'll do my best to provide supporting content on Sunday as well. So if I need to record a video briefly giving an example of websites that may be good to use in your heuristic evaluation in case someone wants a recommendation. Yeah. Or if I need to briefly describe what a heuristic evaluation is and maybe pick one of the sets to use that's generally used. Just some sort of supporting content, anything like that, I'll try to provide on Sunday for you. But at a minimum, it'll come each day. So the full topics list right now, this is across all the weeks. The one you were just looking at was foundational skills. But there's a lot here. The idea of iterative design, I mean, that one is very focused on iterative design. But there's potentially you're going to be doing iterative design throughout this. Data visualization. There's one in here that was really fun. Inclusive data visualization, that's towards the end. Seems really interesting. And then error handling and feedback. I don't know if we have dark patterns in here, but it may be a good one to add. But if you, maybe I can screen grab this and throw it in Miro. But if you have ideas about things that potentially are missing, we can add them. I'll drop them down at the bottom here. And then at the end, the idea would be maybe to try some capstone challenges. So how can we create things that reflect a full life cycle or a full cycle of design, or maybe multiple full cycles of design, or that reflect how certain meetings might go? Just how can we make this a more comprehensive end-to-end experience? So I created the spreadsheet for building teams. You can find your own team outside of IXDF. We're going to discuss that. You can be on as many teams as you like with whomever you like. So if you have one very specific skill you want to grow, maybe it is that project management, and you find that there are 3 teams that could use help with organizing themselves. You could just get in touch with them and say, hey, listen, I'm working on project management and I want to support your team doing that. And it'll prepare you for future project management, being on multiple teams. And then this idea of how to include outsiders, and it was the word I used initially. I don't love it, but just invite them to Discord Jam channel, and you can always introduce them to me if you want to incorporate them a little bit better. But they can jump in; they'll suddenly have access to the stream of topics. They'll have access to all the communication, and they'll be good to go. We can provide access to the spreadsheet at that point. This is the toughest part, I think, is how to be successful, because producing something in the middle of uncertainty, that's how I would describe user research, user experience, UI, any of those. I think stress is a big thing in our discipline, and it is I ran a survey a little while ago on wellness, and it was one of the big things, was just basically, how can I not be so stressed? How can I achieve work-life balance? How do I create boundaries, and so on and so forth? But it's this idea of uncertainty is huge in the discipline. So set your expectations and set your boundaries. And I would do that soon. Like know yourself, know when you need to stop, and know how much you're willing to give, because design can be sort of an infinite cyclical thing if you don't check it. And this sort of exercise over time, it's a gym. It really is about doing the reps, building the muscles. The journey is kind of the point. The hope is that by going through these motions, you'll become a stronger designer, researcher, product owner, project manager, so on and so forth. And having come through the other side of this, maybe everything that you produced is not something that you'd want to show off, or put in your portfolio, but maybe the next thing you create is, or maybe it led to things that you created being things that you want to put in your portfolio. And very, very importantly, don't compare yourself to others. Do the best work that you can, knowing that the experience and limitations exist. Oh, and you have to fill in the gaps. So there are all sorts of free tools. If you ever need recommendations for free tools, I've been in a lot of them. So if you want like a more robust prototyping tool, I could probably find one for you that's maybe a little bit better in Figma when it comes to building more realistic experiences that navigate exactly how you'd want them with fully changing states. If you need something different than Miro, Google Docs, so on and so forth, we can usually find one. But take advantage of those. Make a plan to do the work, as I mentioned, set healthy boundaries, and do the thing and show it off regardless of how you feel about it. Be like this guy on the right-hand side. You just got to be proud of what you created, knowing that the next drawing, the next thing is going to be based off of your experience, will be a little bit better. And when do we start? So my plan is to kick this off next Monday, February 10th, 12:01 a.m., first thing in the morning. And really, it's the 9th, maybe noon when it's in that set out. But my hope is to somehow schedule it, or just wake up first thing, which I do, usually up at like 6 a.m., and pop that in the Discord. So it'll be there for you. And where will we start? The Discord. So if you've never worked with Discord before, it may be good to take some time to get into it sooner than later. Check in and make sure that that's just not a technical barrier. So what to do in the meantime, your homework is to sign up for the accounts that you need. You don't have to sign up for Miro if you don't want to. But it's a good whiteboarding tool. And the great thing about it is it gives you I think it still gives you 3 boards for free in perpetuity. So really good sort of freemium model that'll support you as you grow. If you're gonna do a lot of prototyping, Figma has a good free, I think they give you 1 board, 1 Figma file, but that can be sort of infinitely expanding. So you can work with that. Warm up your favorite document editor if you plan on doing a lot of user research stuff, project planning. It's really good. Google Docs is great for building discussion guides and stuff like that. If you plan on doing project management, it may be good to connect with the team and decide what sort of task tracking you want to use, if any, if it's just stickies on Miro or if it's Asana or one of those, and be ready to shift and make teamwork happen. Block time in your calendar. Think about that. Hey, when am I actually going to do this stuff? And beyond that, thank you. I'm really